So today we're saying goodbye to this deck, and the first job we have this morning is to clear everything off to get it ready to strip down.
We started by pulling off all the wood trim, the cladding, and taking down the railings.
What we discovered when we took all the cladding off was that old reality that it is never easy and it's never straightforward when you're renovating an old house, because underneath the cladding we found that the posts had been pieced together with lots of pieces of odd shaped wood that really should not have been done in that way. So we realized that we were going to have to do some repairs. But then we found that one of the beams, the main beams that on the roof of the deck, was also completely rotten. In fact, it was so rotten that it actually had a whole piece missing. And so we realized we're going to have to do a little more work than we'd expected. It wasn't a matter of just replacing the beams. It's going to take us longer and it's going to be more work, but for us it's worth it because we really want to make sure that we do this renovation right and that we honor the building and make sure that everything goes back the way it should be.
This is what we saw when we took off the cladding around the posts that were holding up the deck. We found that the posts had been pieced together with multiple pieces of wood, and it was all standing on this tiny little post at the bottom. When we discovered that the main beam was rotten, our big concern was how much other rotten wood there was in the roof. And so we decided that we needed to pull off the wood pieces off the roof to double check that there wasn't anything else rotten. And we were very happy to say that what we found was in great shape, and so we don't need to worry about it.
So our job for this weekend is to take out this big beam and replace it with new ones that we've got. We've bought 6x6 wood beams that we're going to replace both the posts and the beam that goes across the top on the deck. And so it's, like I say, it's taken us a bit longer than we were expecting, but I think it'll be worth it in the end. And if you're wondering where all those decorative pieces from the deck have gone, well, let me show you. We've actually brought them inside, ready for restoration, because we've taken them off and we want them to be restored as authentically as possible. So what we're going to do is we are going to strip them down and repaint them, or if they need any work or they're rotten, they will be replaced exactly the same. So it will look like new when we put it all back together. I'm pretty excited because this week I picked up my first material that I'm going to be using for curtains, and I actually found it in the fabric store here in Moncton, and it's just beautiful. I just love it. So I decided that I wanted to have kind of a French feel, so I decided to go with this beautiful French toile. And it's in a beautiful raspberry colour, which I love. And so we're going to do it can make the room very, very romantic with the kind of raspberry and maybe a bit of pink and very French feeling. So I've got all my meters, my 12 meters of material, and now I have to make them into curtains. So that's the next challenge. It's going to be one of my projects in the next few weeks. But for now, I have the material, which is the main thing. That's the important part. And I'm actually going to use this now as my kind of base for everything else in the room. So all my other color schemes, my paint samples. So I'm going to use this kind of raspberry red to be the base so that everything else kind of ties in and matches. One of the most wonderful parts of renovating the manor is the wallpaper that we find. We have found wallpaper in all sorts of strange places and behind all sorts of things in the manor, and some of it's the original. You can still see the soot and the dirt from years ago, and sadly it is so old and so fragile. I've really not been able to save very much because it's on plaster, and when you actually try and take it off the wall, the plaster disintegrates and you lose both the wallpaper and the wall. So any pieces I can, I've been collecting, and I'm collecting and keeping a collection, but some of it is just too fragile, and unfortunately we can't save it. So this one particularly in the kitchen is one of my favorites, and is one that I've not been able to save other than a very, very small piece. So I'm thinking of getting this replicated so we can at least have a piece of it either on the wall or framed or in some form in the kitchen, so we can remember how it used to be. In the kitchen here, you can see where there used to be an old wall. Here in the middle, you can actually see where the wall was, and on the left-hand side, you can see this green wallpaper that used to be, we think, on the hallway, and then we're assuming this was a wall, and then this was the wallpaper that was in the kitchen. So you can see here the beautiful red in this wallpaper, which I just love.
We also found this wallpaper under the stairs in one of the bedrooms, and although it looks actually in really good shape on the wall, it's still so fragile that unfortunately I can't get any pieces off, but we're going to keep it under the stairs because it's a great memory.
Sadly, these are the only two pieces of wallpaper that I've actually been able to get off the wall and keep, and they're not in great condition, but I'm keeping them for the memory books and to remember as much as I can. This week I've also been doing a ton of work outside and pretty much wheelbarrowing dirt from this part of the house round the back, because I dug out a lot for the different paths that I've made and I needed to get it all cleared. So I managed to get all that dirt moved, and so this area now is starting to look much clearer and much more like a garden, which is great.
We still have a long way to go, but the garden is starting to take shape with the rock wall and the paths. And so I'm going to get working on it again, and I'll see you next week on our next episode of Ladysmith Manor Diaries.